I'm a big fan of Crunchyroll. I know that's a controversial opinion, but for just $5, I get access to a massive library of anime. What's not to love? Sprinkled among the sea of fantastic shows, however, lies a stinky pile of crap known as Crunchyroll originals. Sure, there's a couple of great originals like Tonikawa and Tower of God, if you don't watch past the first season. But on the other end of the spectrum, we have two of the worst anime ever made, High Guardian Spice and everyone's favourite blender project, X-Arm. Today though, I want to talk about a lesser known Crunchyroll original that belongs in the same league as those two. Gibiate? Gibiate. Released in summer of 2020, the action fantasy sci-fi thriller boasts a modest 2.4 out of 5 stars, and you'll soon see why. It's very bad. Anyway, enough stalling, let's give it a watch. The anime starts in the year 1600 by introducing us to our main character, Kanzaki Sensei, a well-established samurai. He's being exiled from his homeland because his lord told him to surrender himself for an unexplained reason. Accompanying him is the also exiled ninja, Kenroku. Suddenly, a huge wave appears and swallows the criminals. The opening plays abruptly, featuring possibly the worst opening music I've ever heard. Sounds like a wet sloppy orgy of every Asian instrument known to man. Before we continue, I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs by the end of the year so I can at least justify torturing myself with this garbage. Help a brother out. The boys open their eyes to find themselves in modern day Japan. That's right, they've time travelled. They're exploring the city when they stumble across a man sat down against a barrel. They call out to him, but instead of responding, this happens. Arifurita's got some serious competition. The pair team up against what I'd call the Gorilla Hog, but he's just too damn durable. They're about to get beat to a pulp when a girl shows up out of nowhere and shoots it with her stun gun, knocking the beast unconscious. She collects the monster's goo and tells them to hop in the car. Whilst they're driving, she asks them where they're from, so they tell her that they're from Edo. And without hesitation, my guy in the front seat is able to deduce that they're time travelers. He's either missing a chromosome or he's got one to spare. The conversation continues, and Kenroku mentions how strong Sensei is when he's equipped with a sword. To his luck, Mr. Big Brain happens to have one at his house. They make a stop at the old guy's house and wait patiently for him to retrieve the sword and return safely. Just kidding, they drive off without him, even though his house is right by. After a bit more driving, they arrive at the survivor camp. Kathleen, the blonde girl, assures the pair that everyone in the camp is really nice and friendly. The moment they enter the camp, however, everyone is disgusted by their presence. This brings me back to high school. Kathleen then introduces them to the camp's scientist, Dr. Yoshinaga. He explains the whole situation with the ugly-ass gorilla that they met earlier. Basically, these CGI monstrosities are called Gibiate. They used to be human, but a mysterious disease transformed them into monsters. All of the Gibiate have stingers, and if you're injected with their venom, then you'll also transform into a Gibiate. But how do you know if you've been infected, you may probably not be asking. You'll hear the constant sound of dripping water deep within your ears. Catherine quite passionately grabs onto Sensei's arm and asks if he hears dripping water, even though they have absolutely no reason to suspect that he's been infected. The doctor then explains that he's actively looking for a cure. He also tells us that Gibiate are afraid of light, just like I'm sure most of you are. Episode 2 opens up with Kathleen suddenly acting cold and serious, pressuring Sensei into a duel to prove that he can protect the camp. He agrees and swiftly one-taps her. Excited by Sensei's overwhelming strength, Kathleen's eyes grow by about 150%. Later, we cut back to the old guy from earlier, Maeda, as he makes his way back to the camp with his sword. Seriously, instead of making him venture back on his own through this hostile wasteland, why the fuck didn't they just wait for him? Just as he's approaching the camp, he's ambushed by spider lizards, or as I like to call them, Spizzards. Thankfully, he's saved by the firing squad, but the situation is only worsening, as hordes of spizzards and flying creatures are swarming the camp. He's presenting the sword to Sensei, when all of a sudden he gets snatched by this caked up dragon man, or as I'd like to call it, Dan. Okay, that's the last one. Sensei defies gravity by jumping about 100 feet in the air and manages to grab onto Maida. After grabbing onto the sword, he slices Dan apart and rescues Maida. After landing, he gets the world's shortest case of pink eye. He then goes on a rampage and thins out the number of invaders. The rest of the episode is just shitty repetitive fight scenes until it's revealed that Maida has been infected, so Sensei decapitates him. RIP. It's the next day, and whilst they defeated a large number of monsters, they've also lost most of their survivors, and their camp is wrecked, so they decide to relocate to the countryside. Luckily, the doctor knows the whereabouts of a helicopter, so the remaining survivors head towards a research facility where the helicopter is located. They find the helicopter, and they're about to fly away, when they notice a big fella conveniently on the rooftop next to them. They decide to go and rescue him, but to their dismay, a huge monster is on the building with him. Now you may be wondering why the monster is roaming around in broad daylight. Well, you see, he's an anomaly. Whatever that means, I have no fucking clue, just deal with it. Sensei charges in and starts hacking away at the monster, but his sword might as well be a toothpick. It does nothing. So Kenroku does what any respectable ninja would do. He flies the helicopter straight into it. The whole thing explodes with him still inside, but don't worry, he's wearing a couple layers of plot armor, so he survives. That's as far as I could watch without ripping every hair follicle out of my scalp. So after watching the first few episodes, you may be thinking, why is this show so bad? Well, let's start by looking at the story. A samurai and a ninja time travel to a monster-infested modern-day Tokyo. My anime list user Kotaunik described it as a rich kid's school project, and I don't think I could describe it better myself. As far as I'm aware, this anime is completely original and isn't based off a manga or anything, so I can only imagine the source material was a pile of human feces. Okay, so the story's nothing to write home about, but it's a shonen, it's all about the epic fight scenes, right? Wrong. All of the fights look like PowerPoint presentations, with key impact moments cut out due to sheer laziness. Like most of the time Sensei's about to defeat an enemy, the camera just pans away. Can you imagine if they did that in a show like One Piece? Like you watch 100 episodes of build up and then when he's finally about to defeat Kaido, they just zoom out all the way. Even if you can look past the terrible animation, there's one glaring issue that we certainly can't look past. I find it hilarious that a whole team of people looked at this and thought, yeah, that works. Although most of them were probably too sleep deprived to care. And it's not just the CGI that's bad. The regular animation is painfully lackluster. Last but not least, the voice acting. Every character sounds like a robot with zero emotion. Kind of like me. And when they are programmed to show feeling every once in a while, it just comes off as so artificial. Also, the doctor sounds about 50 years older than he should.
あの生物はジビエと呼んでいる。もともとは人間だ。
I seriously wonder what the team at Crunchyroll was thinking when they created this slot. But hey, at least they learnt their lesson, right? Never mind. I'm gonna give this one a 2.3 out of 10. Don't forget to subscribe. See ya. 10 out of 10, I debated all over the screen.